The 1990s. There was a time when the internet was still just a whisper, and for millions of Americans, the quickest path to celebrity connection or sudden advice ran right through the telephone cord. The 1-900 number was an empire, a dizzying hustle that everyone tried to cash in on. From the wrestling rings, strongman Hulk Hogan had a fan hotline, and even the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith, was dialing in to connect with his fans. But for all the celebrity hype, the real kings and queens of the 1-900 era wore turbans, not crowns. They were the psychics, the fortune tellers who transformed a few minutes of phone time into a billion-dollar industry. Legendary singer Dionne Warwick sold millions of minutes through her network, sitting alongside stars like Esther Roll and Gary Coleman. Yet, one figure transcended them all, a face and voice so unforgettable she became the very definition of the psychic hotline phenomenon, Miss Cleo. Call me now. Her Jamaican accent cut through the noise, promising truth and insight for a price. She was the character America loved, a black woman with undeniable cultural charisma who turned a fake persona into real fame. But who was Youree Dell Harris, the woman behind the thick accent and the flowing clothes? What was the true price of the secrets she sold, and the bigger secret she desperately tried to hide about herself? The woman the world knew as Miss Cleo was born Youree Dell Harris on August 12, 1962, not on some mystical Caribbean island, but right in Los Angeles, California. She was one of 10 siblings. Contrary to the wild rumors that circulated later, her parents were successful Americans, her father from Texas, her mother from California. They provided a life of privilege, sending her to an all-girls boarding school. Youree herself was very upset when People magazine tried to claim her parents were drug dealers, a lie she always firmly denied. As a teenager in high school, Yoree's focus wasn't on prophecy, but on the ordinary moments of life. She was known for taking pictures and working on the school yearbook. But it was during those high school years that she discovered a profound truth about herself: she was a lesbian. Her first relationship was with a girl on the swim team, blonde hair, blue eyes, a connection Youree described as the best thing since sliced bread. This deeply personal life was something she would spend years trying to hide from a society that was not yet ready to accept her. By the time they were seniors, the girl's father found out, and the relationship was abruptly torn apart. To hide her sexuality and to build a conventional life, Youree married a gay man when she was around 19. This arrangement, designed to keep the world from questioning their private lives, brought them 2 daughters. The marriage eventually ended, they remarried, but tragically, her husband later died from AIDS. The deep sorrow and the constant need for a mask pushed Youree to seek a new beginning. She packed her bags and moved to Seattle, Washington, driven by a powerful desire to pursue her true passion, the theater. She even started her own production company. In Seattle, she was able to land a role with the Langston Hughes Nonprofit Advisory Council and was given a budget to pay the cast and crew for her 3 stage plays. This was where the legend began, not in a mystical tent, but on a regional theater stage. One of the plays Youree created was titled For Women Only. And within that play, she debuted the character that would change her life, a turban-wearing Jamaican lady named Miss Cleo who sold trinkets at a market. This was the origin of the now iconic Jamaican accent, a voice she began practicing constantly, both on and off camera. The people around her at the time thought her intense dedication to the accent was weird. But this period of artistic promise quickly turned sour. Youree was accused of not paying the cast members and crew from her plays. When they pressed her, demanding their wages, she gave a chilling and desperate excuse. She claimed she had life-threatening conditions, bone cancer and sickle cell, and that her high medical bills were the reason she couldn't pay them. She wrote each actor an IOU, promising to pay them back. This was a crushing blow to the nonprofit, which decided not to pursue costly legal charges, though they were most upset about the children who didn't get paid. Youree ended up skipping town, heading south to Florida. She would later claim that she left Seattle not because of the financial scandal, but because a second abusive relationship with a woman who struggled with alcohol. Regardless of the true motive, Youree Dell Harris had left a trail of unpaid debts and broken promises. But she took the one valuable thing with her, the character and the voice of Miss Cleo. That theatrical invention, born from a need to hide and a desire to perform, was now her only currency. She carried that persona into her new life, a powerful, yet deceptive, tool she would soon deploy for the world to see. Arriving in Florida, Youree Dell Harris was desperate for cash. She needed a job, and the answer came not from the theater, but from the classified ads of a local newspaper. She took a job as a telemarketer, performing tarot card readings over the phone. She dedicated 3 to 4 years to this grind. Her theatrical training, combined with the cultivated Miss Cleo accent, made her uniquely effective at her job. The company, Psychic Readers Network, PRN, soon noticed her. PRN was owned by wealthy Florida businessman Stephen Fetter and his cousin Peter Stolz. They had been running telephone psychic operations since 1993. They were impressed by Yoree's personality and her reading during a special event at a mall. They approached her, offering a contract to be the spokesperson and face of their company. The deal was $1,700 to film a single commercial. She desperately needed the money and agreed immediately. The network's first spokesperson was Philip Michael Thomas from the hit 80s show Miami Vice. But when they fired him and replaced him with Miss Cleo, the company exploded. The commercial was undeniable. Youree, in character, with her booming voice and commanding presence, demanding that America, call me now. PRN wanted the public to believe she was a genuine Jamaican shaman, fresh off the island. She became the brand's iconic face, a charismatic figure that transcended the low-quality production of the television ads. The numbers she generated were staggering. Over 6 million people called the Miss Cleo hotline. The company began pulling in over $24 million a month. Over a period of just 2 to 3 years, the psychic hotline business, fueled by the Miss Cleo campaign, generated more than $1 billion in revenue. She had become a household name, an inescapable figure of American pop culture. She toured nationally, appearing on talk shows like The Jenny Jones Show, and even released a book titled Keeping It Real, a practical guide for spiritual living. Yet, the irony of the situation was cruel. While she was the star, the face, and the undeniable creative engine of the brand, Youree Dell Harris only made about $450,000 for her work. She was an employee, paid 24 cents per minute, a higher rate than the 14 cents per minute paid to other psychics, but a fraction of the fortune she was generating. The entire enterprise was built on a calculated deception. PRN's model revolved around the 3 minutes free offer, but the company encouraged their operators, many of whom were simply phone actors with no psychic experience, to keep callers on the line for at least 15 minutes. The charge after the free period was $4.99 per minute. This tactic often resulted in phone bills exceeding $300. Callers were sometimes left on hold, running up the free time. The Psychic Readers Network had perfected the hustle, prioritizing maximum revenue over genuine counsel. Youree Dell Harris, the theater enthusiast who wanted to be an actress, had finally achieved national fame. But that fame was inseparable from the deception of the 1 to 900 hustle. She had delivered a captivating performance, only to find the script was written by greed, and the stage was set for a massive fall. The whole empire, built on a voice and a simple lie, began to crumble not from external forces, but from a single investigative reporter. A young court TV journalist named Matt Bean received an anonymous tip. The hundreds of psychics taking calls, including the iconic Miss Cleo, were not conducting genuine tarot card readings. They were reading off a pre-written script. Matt Bean managed to obtain a copy of that script. He called the hotline himself, posing as a customer, and confirmed the damning truth. The psychics were mere actors, reading generalized advice designed only to keep the caller on the line. When he broke the story to the media, the illusion shattered. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, launched an inquiry. Soon after, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, the agency tasked with protecting consumers from fraud, filed a massive complaint against the Psychic Readers Network, PRN. The FTC argued that PRN had relentlessly misled viewers, promising free readings, while aggressively charging exorbitant per-minute fees. They also highlighted the company's abusive collection tactics, bullying customers into paying charges they were not legally obligated to honor. Lawsuits began rolling in from attorney generals in multiple states, including North Carolina, Arkansas, New York, Florida, and Illinois. The weight of public and legal pressure became too much for the billion-dollar operation to bear. In 2002, PRN reached a settlement with the FTC. The agreement was staggering. The company had to forgive over $500 million in outstanding customer charges. They also paid a fine of $5 million to the Federal Trade Commission. The psychic empire that Miss Cleo had helped build was officially shut down by the federal government. However, in a strange twist of legal fate, Youree Dell Harris herself was dropped from the lawsuit. The company had successfully argued that she was merely a paid spokesperson and an actress, and therefore could not be held liable for the company's fraudulent billing practices. But the damage was done. The Florida Attorney General still took action, forcing the public release of her birth certificate, definitively proving to the world that she was not a Jamaican shaman. The woman behind the persona had lost her magic. Her public image was irrevocably damaged, and her promising offers for a national tour and a 2-book deal were immediately rescinded. Youree had spent her life creating a character to hide her true self, and now that character had been exposed as a multi-million-dollar hoax. The betrayal hit her hard. She had signed a terrible contract, making only a fraction of the immense wealth she generated, and was now left with a shattered reputation. Yet, even in the wreckage of the scandal, Youree Dell Harris demonstrated a peculiar resilience. She never apologized for the character, only for the company's billing practices. She faced the public scorn, the late-night comedy skits, and the relentless mocking of her accent with a surprising calm. The acting was over, but the woman behind the act had a complex story that was far from finished. Became an instant cultural shorthand, a symbol of the wild, slightly chaotic energy of the late 90s television landscape. Despite the scandal, the character of Miss Cleo had already cemented her place in American pop culture history. Youree Dell Harris had successfully achieved a type of cultural immortality. She became an instant cultural shorthand, a symbol of the wild, slightly chaotic energy of the late 90s television landscape, often viewed with a complex mix of nostalgia, amusement, and betrayal by the American public. The American perspective on Miss Cleo was unusual. Though she was the face of a company that had financially victimized millions, Youree, the woman, was largely spared from the most intense hatred. This was partly due to her subsequent reaction to the scandal. She never took the pervasive mockery to heart. She actually claimed to enjoy the parodies on shows like Mad TV and Dave Chappelle's show. This demonstrated a resilience and willingness to self-deprecate, qualities highly valued in American humor and culture. Her professional life continued to surprise. Even after the collapse of the Psychic Readers Network, she found work. Her voice, instantly recognizable and deeply embedded in the nation's consciousness, was her currency. She was hired as a voice actress for the video game Grand Theft Auto, Vice City, playing Auntie, proving her talent was always in performance. Major brands, recognizing the lingering power of the Miss Cleo character, hired her as a spokesperson, including Benefit Cosmetics and even the cereal company General Mills for their cinnamon French toast crunch. She had successfully transitioned from a fraudulent shaman to a legitimate, marketable celebrity. Perhaps her most enduring legacy, viewed through the lens of social progress in the U.S., came later. Youree Dell Harris publicly came out as a lesbian. This act of courage, inspired by her teenage godson, became a significant, quiet testament to living her truth. The woman who had spent years hiding her identity behind the thick, theatrical accent of Miss Cleo finally shed the biggest mask of all, leaving a far more meaningful, verifiable legacy than any fraudulent psychic reading could ever offer. After the storm passed, Youree Dell Harris found a quiet dignity in her life. She continued offering private, individualized readings, now billing herself as a spiritual counselor rather than a psychic. For her loyal clientele, paying anywhere from $75 to $250 for a reading, the voice still held the power of insight. She also found an unexpected creative outlet in poetry, releasing albums like Convicted for My Beliefs and Full Moon Madness. She insisted that she wasn't mad at the comedians or the public who mocked her, accepting the notoriety as part of the price of fame. Her final years were marked by the courageous act of fully embracing her truth, coming out publicly as a lesbian and speaking openly about the abusive relationships and personal struggles she faced while wearing the mask of Miss Cleo. But fate is often cruelest to those who hide their vulnerabilities behind a larger-than-life persona. Youree Dell Harris died on July 26, 2016, at a hospice center in Palm Beach County, Florida. She was just 53 years old. The cause of death was colon cancer that had spread to her liver and lungs. Some stories end without the clear moral or definitive closure. But the story of Youree Dell Harris, the ambitious actress, the secret lesbian, the billion-dollar psychic, and the resilient human being, leaves behind a far more complex legacy. She may have lied about her heritage and the nature of her talent, but she ultimately embraced her true self in a way the fictional Miss Cleo never could. Her life reminds us that dignity doesn't need applause, and the real self often emerges only after the final curtain falls on the performance. We read every comment. This story is a poignant look at the cost of the American hustle and the burden of fame. Did you call the hotline? Did the voice of Miss Cleo make you feel seen? Or does her story simply remind you of a time when the world was a little more chaotic and a lot less connected? If this narrative makes you rethink the people behind the personas we see on our screens, please share your thoughts below.